Well, good day. This is Eric Rollins coming to you live from the podcast layer. Today, I am joined by Dr. Johnny Alvarado. He's trying to make a difference in education. I want to point out to people that we don't pay enough attention to this is one of the key places where government makes a difference, and picking the right candidate matters. So I'm hoping we get to know this man. It'll be kind of a shortened show today, but he's certainly welcome back. So first of all, what job are you running for, and can you describe the job? Because this is one where people go to school boards and they get that, but they don't realize that there's another whole layer of people that make a difference in making a decision for a county.
I appreciate you having me, and to all your audience that's listening today, thank you for taking the time. So my name is Johnny Alvarado, and I currently serve in a school district in Fresno County. I'm running for the position of Fresno County Office of Education. This is a position that, if people don't know about it, let me give a quick little brief summary of what it is. So in Fresno County, there are 32 school districts, K-12 school districts, and there's a number of charter schools as well that teach students throughout Fresno County. Each school district has its own superintendent, district superintendent, that is governed by a local school board. Fresno County Superintendent of Schools is the superintendent over the county, but has no oversight over school districts or school district superintendents. We are a team, and we work collaboratively to address learning and to address student success throughout the county. The Fresno County Superintendent of Schools organization can best be described as a resource center to be able to, how I like to refer to it, is create product. A product might be, as an example, a training series for teachers, for administrators at any level. And then it is incumbent upon the county superintendent and the team to go out and, for the lack of a better term, sell the product, convince our district superintendents that this is something that could help a solution they're trying to solve within their school district. And then we begin the journey on trying to make a difference for all students in Fresno County. So it's just a real quick summary of the role of the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools.
So more than an advisory committee, you're almost a guiding hand for all the different school districts.
Yeah, I think that's another great
one that they don't necessarily have to follow. So that means you have to have inspired leadership.
That's correct. I mean, that's a great way of putting it, right? So leadership becomes very important. I believe a level of credibility becomes very important. I believe a level of experience and merit becomes very important in the person that is elected to that seat, and someone that has demonstrated over his or her experience that they're able to bring teams together and make differences for the organization. And in this organization, it's more than just Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. It's the entire county of Fresno, because all of our students are, they attend school for the purpose of learning and for the purposes of being ready to go out into the world of college or career, and then to be successful contributors to society. And that's our mission. And right now, with 55% of our students who are not proficient in reading, and 68% of our students not proficient in math, we're missing the mark on that. And I think it's time for change and some time for accountability.
Well, clearly, the only reason the numbers are that high is because some of the school districts are successful. Fresno Unified, which is the Leviathan, sorry, couldn't get that word out, in the district. Aren't there significantly more students just in Fresno Unified than the rest of the district?
Yeah, we're talking about somewhere around 70,000 students that are served in Fresno Unified. Second to that would be Clovis Unified at about 40,000.
Right.
Plus or minus a few thousand there, but right around that number.
So I get that you're trying to implement a policy and a vision that would change the dynamic. I don't have a lot of hope for Fresno Unified. I've been to about 30 of their school board meetings. I've been to about that many of Clovis Unified. The culture is so very different. how can you affect the culture? They seem to be focused on things that don't have much to do with education, but rather woke policy when I go to Fresno Unified. Is there anything, do you have a plan to address that? Because for me, you can figure out politics later. I'm not in on woke, but the kids can't read and write. How is that not the number one thing to deal with?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, if with more time, there's probably a lot that we can talk about, but I will give you an example because I want our audience to be able to walk away from this meeting with some hope, I guess is the best way I would describe it. And hope just can't happen by happenstance. And I know you know that. It has to happen by intentionality and a lot of focus and purpose. So one of the things that I would celebrate is that we recently had visitors from Fresno Unified to our school district, Parlier Unified, and they wanted to have a better understanding of what are we doing where we are experiencing great success. And what I mean by that is we have reduced suspension rates, and I'm just going to use the high school as an example, by about 55, 58% from one year over the next. And when that begins to happen, not because we're saying don't suspend students, but because we're actually building infrastructure, consistent processes that afford a lot of predictability on how we expect our students to interact with each other and with adults on our campus. And we have created what I like to refer to, and have been referring to this, since I got into education in 1995, is a sound behavioral management system that everybody can speak to. And so when you calm the school environment, then learning begins to accelerate. Let me give you an example. When I was the principal at Bullard High School, I was honored with that position the year before COVID, or the year of COVID, 2019, 2020. And we all know the conversations about COVID and what it did to learning. However, at Bullard High School, we were responsive in two ways. We created a behavioral management system, which demonstrated a reduction in suspension rates of or discipline referrals of about 70% from one year to the next. And our results, academic achievement results, increased during that next year when the assessment was taken. And it increased at a pretty significant result, which was about 14% in ELA and about 30% in math. And so when I think about what can any school district do, once a school district determines through an analysis of where their areas of weakness might be, where their areas of threats might be, and what are the strengths and opportunities, then we begin to be laser-like focused in what we're trying to develop. So one of the things that I've been able to do in schools that I've led, in districts that I've served, and in districts that I've supported throughout the United States, in several different states, and some of the consulting work that I do, is to help them understand the need for a behavioral management system that supports not only students, but staff and parents, and everybody understanding how we're going to journey through this process together.
Well, if we take this away from the school, a safe community can be a prosperous community. I think that same idea applies. Now, you used kind of, government tends to talk in acronyms and abbreviations. ELA.
Okay.
What is ELA?
So English language arts, right? Okay. Reading, writing. And then obviously math is the other, main curricular area that we want our kids to be successful in. When you can unlock those, and everything else becomes a little bit easier to be successful in. So ELA, English language arts.
Now, obviously you've worked, I kind of read your resume, and you've worked at a diverse number of places. For instance, Parlier is very Hispanic. The whole community is. They tend to not be very upwardly mobile, but they're hardworking. I'm not trying to put them down. They're hardworking people. So I imagine there's not the number of resources coming from parents and things when you compare it to Clovis. Yet you found success in both places. What was the secret? What happened?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, let me address that specific point that you called out, which was I've been able to serve in many different school districts, and that was all done intentionally. I want our audience to know all moves were upward mobility. I would say that in 1995, when I left United Parcel Service in a management position for the benefit of my family, I came into education in 1995. And in 1995, I said to myself, someday I would want to be a superintendent of an organization, school district. I probably have said, in fact, I still have that same document that I wrote in 1995. And then in 2014, I became more specific in what I wanted to do. In 2014, I was working at Fresno County Office of Education, which is what it was identified then. Today, it's Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. And in 2014, I said to myself, that's a position I know I can do, but not yet. There are more things I need to accomplish in order to be a very sound representative for our county. So since then, I've been able to work at 7 different school districts: Clovis Unified, Fresno Unified, Parlor Unified, Selma Unified, Sanger Unified. I led a charter school organization from between Tulare and Sacramento. And in each of those, in my assessment, anytime I take on a leadership role, I conduct what's called a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And in doing so, you get a clear picture of what has been happening, what is currently happening, and what can we do a little bit better going into the next school year. And a lot of it's centered around creating a team, a solid team, and working together for a common vision and a common purpose. That common vision and common purpose is student achievement across the board, whether that be visual and performing arts, whether that be athletics, or whether that be academics. And in being able to bring people together and resources, we then executed the plan that was developed as a team, and we began to see great results across the board. I think that's the secret, right? And part of the factors of that are bringing parents together so that parents also understand the vision and what we're trying to create in the school system or in the district. And then once parents are involved in that, they then become collaborators and decision makers, giving input. Even though the decision for me was based with me as the principal of a school, I did not turn away from making sure all of the school community were participants in creating that vision and then executing it.
I think that is key, and I imagine in some communities it's harder. For instance, Parlier, again, hardworking people, but a lot of them, to make it, have to work a second job, or a lot of them are working in agriculture, and when there's work, they might work 60 or 70 or occasionally even more hours than that. It makes it really hard for them to be as active in their kids' lives. Not that they don't love their kids, it's that to make it, and that's part of Fresno Unified's problem too, especially when you get south of Shaw. What do you do to bring those parents in when, for instance, I go to a Clovis Unified school board meeting and I see quite a number of parents. I go to Fresno Unified, and while I haven't been in months, I went to quite a number, and it's a huge school district, and if it was a major issue, maybe 50 people showed up. Most of the time, it's 20 for 70,000 students. How do you change that culture?
Yeah, no, great question. In a lot of spaces that I've been in, Eric, and for those of us, our listeners who have been in education, they'll understand this commentary I'm going to make here. In many cases, sometimes we tend to think that in our work as educators, we can only control what we can control from 8 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's that philosophy that gets in the way. It gets in the way of creativity, and it gets in the way of doing more than what should be expected to be done between 8 and 3 o'clock p.m. A lot of that falls with the administrators because they're not bound by an 8 to 3 o'clock time frame. And that's not to suggest that just because we are bound by 8 to 3 o'clock because of contractual agreements that we've made. We do that jointly. We do that together. Everybody owns it. But the moment that we step outside of that mindset and we start to say, but you know what? We have to do something to be able to get our community involved in what we're doing. So what tends to happen as a result of that? We tend to have meetings later on in the evening time. We tend to make sure that we are creating environments that parents want to come to. Within this last year, we have increased our parent participation by 50%.
No, that's the district you're currently in.
Yes, okay. Exactly. And so the question is, are we satisfied with that? No. So we continue to grow from the creativity that we started with, and we continue to create opportunities for parents to participate, so that they are participants in their kids' education. When I was growing up, Eric, in Sanger, California, my mother graduated. My mother finished 10th grade. My father didn't finish high school, but went to night school to get his GED. Now, our parents were not able to help us. We're a family of 6 siblings. I'm the oldest. Our parents were not able to help us in terms of academics or in terms of school. They trusted the educators to take care of us, and they worked all the time. But one thing that was happening is that they were present. And us, as myself as a parent now of 3 daughters and my wife, we were not only present, but we were able to help our kids because we went through a college program and became professionals, right? So the way I like to say that is, I was able, as the leader of our family, the oldest in our family and siblings, I was able to break the cycle, that life cycle, where we were able to get out of that and go to college and then become professionals in our work. So I want to take that environment that our parents taught us and bring that, even though it might be challenging, right? Challenging should not be the end of us. Challenging should be the starting point, so that we can go and do what needs to be done, so that we're making a difference in schools and for students.
Now, I know you have somewhat limited time, so I want to make sure that we get a website, or however it is people can find out more about you. I want to get that out, because I don't know if 12:30 is a hard deadline for you or not. It's almost there.
Yeah.
If it is,
I can go a few minutes afterwards.
Okay. Go ahead and give your website, and then I'll take as much time as you can give me, but I understand you're at work.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah. So let me go ahead and give my Instagram account, and then my website's going to be the same. My website is almost ready to be let out into the world. We're looking at a timeline of tomorrow. So the Instagram is DR for Dr. Johnny, JOHNNY, Alvarado, ALV as in Victor, ARA, D as in Delta, O. That's the number 4 FCSS. So I'll say it again: Dr. Johnny Alvarado, the number 4, F as in Frank, CSS, Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. And then the website is the same, but .com at the end.
Okay. So you say there's hope. Where do you find hope in education? Because I look at a lot of things, and there's some things I'm hopeful about, and some things I'm worried. The state of California keeps stomping on innovation, trying to make you all fit in these little boxes that they decide. And I think that each school district is unique and different, and that innovation often can create success. So how do you find that? How do you find your hope?
Yeah, perfect. I mean, again, I think you have to be, I don't think, I know, you have to be creative. You have to be willing to do something a little bit different, right? As an example, I've been in space with a lot of people that have been talking about, how do I feel about social promotion, right? Now, at the state level, they might make determinations on what we have to do, but there's always workarounds. As an example, one of the things that we made a move today in this year is we enacted an involuntary transfer process, which hadn't been done before in our school district. And instead of having 20 seniors walking on the high school campus that would not graduate because they were not going to attain the certain number of credits, instead of just taking the ideology of social promotion, we flipped that on its head. And we said, no, we're not going to do that. We are going to involuntarily transfer you to our alt ed program. Nothing wrong with an alt ed program. It allows a student to track faster in their credits, and it also reduces the number of credits should they fall on under a certain criteria. And so all of a sudden now we see these 20 students who would have otherwise been walking on a campus with really no purpose because they would not be able to graduate. They now are motivated, they're earning their credits, and they're getting on track to graduate. They will graduate from our alt ed program. In fact, I had one student that said, I might be done by December and I'm going to start college. Those are the kinds of stories that we want to be able to celebrate.
So alt ed is an alternate education, often thought of as where the troubled kids go, although I don't think that's entirely fair.
No, it is not. It is not. Community day school might be a place where expelled students attend, but an alt ed is just an alternative education program to help students who are deficient in math. It might be an independent study program, Eric. It might be a young man or a young woman who's having to work to help support the family, and they can't do school from 8 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it allows us a little more freedom and opportunity to support students.
Or if they had a day where they could do more, they could work at their own pace.
Yeah,
That's one of my criticisms I have of public education. Plus, when it's bad, it never gets torn down. Charter schools can fail. Public schools never fail, no matter how bad.
Yeah, no, and I'll tell you what, I understand that, because when I was at Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, I was the director of charter schools, and I had to close a charter school down. I had to do that because it was not performing, right? And, it was a really good process in the sense that everybody understood the why behind it, and there was no argument about it. But getting back to the point, this is one way we need to be creative, right? A school district can make some differences on how we're supporting students. So that would be one way we address maybe some of the parameters that are placed on K-12 public education, but we should never stop being creative. And in all my journey, and all my data would show it, is that I have been creative, right? Here's one last point that I'll make. You asked a question on where do I see hope for Fresno County. So I'm going to be very real and honest here, and I'm going to do so because we've been doing a lot of work as a state, as a country, within our leadership about merit-based, promotions, right? When we talk about the whole DEI category, and for me, as an educator, all students come to us, and we support all kids. That is what our calling is to do. When I think about this level of merit-based acknowledgement, right? How people are getting jobs once they are there, once they finished high school and go to college and get career, it's based on merit. And I absolutely agree with that. And my hope is that people will understand this main point. Fresno County Superintendent of Schools has been literally governed and controlled by two individuals in their support for a specific candidate. And in the last 11 years, we have experienced in Fresno County less than 1% growth in English language arts and mathematics. And that should not be comfortable with anybody. And so today what we find is those two individuals are now deciding to support a different individual and not the current superintendent who they supported 3 years ago. And under the current superintendent, her success rate is about 0.75 growth, less than 1% in ELA and math. And the current candidate that the two gentlemen are supporting has had not good success. When she was the principal at Clovis West High School, they dropped 7 API points, Academic Performance Index. And in her tenure as the superintendent of Clovis Unified, they actually saw a decrease in English language arts by 7% and a math decrease by 13%. So if we are truly about merit-based acknowledgement, I would ask the voters in Fresno County to consider that, to look at my results, and to really make a sound decision based on that when we go to the voters' booth in June of 2026.
Well, I know all of the parties that you're talking about, and I do appreciate the fact that you're not making it personal.
Yeah, not personal. Yeah,
anyway,
not personal, just factual.
Right.
That's the goal for me, factual.
We don't have enough of that in politics, so I wanted to say thank you for that. There's things I could say about all of those three people that you mentioned, and I think I'm not going to, and leave it with that tone, since that seems to be where you're going with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Two of them I know fairly well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know all four of them, right? I've worked with all four of them. We're colleagues, right? But this is more important than that. This is about our students. This is about our staffs, and this is about our communities. I was on a phone call with one of our with Sheriff Mims the other day, and I had asked her a question because I came across some information of a study that she did.
Oh, I know where you're going. This is good, folks.
Well, but it's important. It's factual, right? Mm-hmm. That when we look at our incarcerated youth at JJC, the Juvenile Justice Campus, there was a study done, and we're seeing that students are 4 to 5 years behind in reading ability, right? Put it right at target right around third or fourth grade reading ability. And then if we just extend that a little bit, extrapolate that out to communities where we think about crime and we think about poverty, right? The only reason why I'm sitting in front of you today with this opportunity, Eric, is because of education, is because of 4 distinct teachers that you'll be able to read about on my website who made a difference in my life. And had they not, I really don't know, based on the activity that I was doing growing up, where I grew up, I don't know if I'd be sitting here. But because of education, because of reading and writing and all the other abilities I was able to be nurtured and to learn in, I stand in front of you today as someone that can say, I honestly believe that education plays a distinct role, that there is a sound causation and correlation to crime and to poverty. And so we have to get it right. We have to get education right if our communities are going to thrive.
So I'm going to just feed a little bit on that. You said third or fourth grade education level of people that are incarcerated. If you don't get beyond that third or fourth grade level, you're going to have trouble filling out a resume, and you're going to be very limited in the number or types of jobs that you have available to you. Thus, because those jobs tend to be not well paying, there's a much higher percentage that end up with crime. So education is a way to rise out of poverty, but it's also a way to rise above and have a better community.
Yeah, I don't think our parents are sending our kids to school saying, I don't want my child to be able to compete, not only during their experience in school, but beyond that. I know for a fact that our parents, myself included and my wife included, we want our children to be able to compete in the world. And to your point, that's going to be difficult to do if we continue along this trajectory of less than 1% growth, where 55% of our students cannot read proficiently and 67% of them cannot do math proficiently.
Now, by that, you mean at grade level?
At grade level, correct. Yeah. At their grade level, correct. Yeah, so we can't continue that same formula. The formula that I'm talking about is these 2 particular individuals who I have a lot of respect for, but their formula doesn't work. In fact, one of them said in a recent Channel 30 newscast that the comment made was, I believe it says something when 2 former county superintendents are supporting a candidate. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I would agree with him on that point. But the thing that it's communicating is that the formula continues, and we cannot have that formula to continue. I'm somebody that's been tested and tried, and I have proven through data and through results, putting teams together, that I could be that person that would work with all of our school districts to be able to support them so that our students can be more successful than what we've been demonstrating in the last 11 years with data, but 20 years overall.
Well, I know we're almost 10 minutes beyond. How you doing on time?
Yeah, I probably need to finish the conversation
All right.
within a minute.
Then I'm going to let you have
to joining you again.
Okay, you're certainly welcome back. I'm going to let you have your final statement then, and throw in your website before you're done.
Wonderful. I will do that. Again, the website will be Dr. Johnny Alvarado, the number 4, F as in Frank, CSS.com. Somebody once asked me, why do you want to do this? And here's my 2 main reasons. I believe so much in parent support and parent participation and parent engagement. There's a distinct difference between participation and engagement. I have a debt to my mother, Eric. My mother was a champion for us. And my debt to her is that I will not stop in serving people, in particular students and staff. That's the first. The second, I would like my story to be the story of many students. And what I mean by that is I was able to reach a level of success because of education and because of people that continue to be mentors of mine. I would like to now assume that responsibility for all students in Fresno County, whether they come into us very low in proficiency or very high in proficiency. We need to benefit all students, push those that need to be pushed more because they're advanced, and continue to support those that at some point we can say, now we're going to push you a little harder because now you're becoming more advanced. Those are my two whys, and I look forward to being able to share my story, my platform, my why to as many people as possible, so that we can make a difference when it comes to voting in June of 2026.
Well, I know you're up against it, so I'm going to say my goodbyes, but I certainly wish you the best of luck. You are certainly welcome to come back on. I love the fact that you keep talking about things like accountability. In other words, you want merit, we don't just hand it to them, we make them earn it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Well, we're going to wrap this up. I thank you, and you have a good day.
You as well. Thank you, everybody.
We'll be in touch.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, we haven't got our bumper music. There we go. I love that Marine Corps anthem. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist here, broadcasting from the podcast layer. See you, folks.